Magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Ako nga pala si Brian Anthony Garcia.
Ako nga pala si Michael John Peña, and this is the Battle of Clouds podcast. So for today, we have Jonah Andersson, who's joining us all the way from Sweden. Hi, Jonah.
Yeah, hi. Hi to both of you, Brian and Michael. Nice to be here in your show.
Yep, it's an honor to have you here after all the recent achievements that you had. It's very inspiring. So
yeah, thank you.
I want you to actually just introduce yourself. Na you tell us something about yourself. What do you do, and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, sure. So ako po si Jonah Andersson. I am a proud Pinay from Dumaguete City sa Pilipinas, nasa Negros Oriental. So Bisaya Bisaya ako. So please excuse me if my Tagalog is a bit slang, pero currently, I'm living dito sa Sweden. So, nandito ako sa Sweden 10 years, for 10 years na. And I work as enterprise software developer consultant at Forefront Consulting Sweden. It is an IT consulting company that have different office dito sa Stockholm, Sweden. Tapos, I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Azure. And I'm the first Azure MVP na woman and Pinay dito sa Sweden. So I'm very proud and humbled to be one.
Yeah, that's nice. It's our pleasure to have you here. So
yes.
if I'm correct, this is your first MVP award, diba? I mean, first year of MVP award.
Oh, it's my first year of MVP. Just last in June, in last 2 months, I got my MVP award for Microsoft Azure. So I didn't expect it because I didn't know Microsoft MVP award existed until someone nominated me. Parang active lang ako to share about knowledge about Azure, public speaking, blogging, and then someone told me, Jonah, you should be an MVP. And what is MVP? And then I just submit my contribution. Tapos I got it. So it's a different feeling. Now you have this passion for community. Pero when you receive the award, you have that humbleness not to do more kasi you like what you do. I know all of you're both of you are MVPs, and I know you can relate so much. The community.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like that. Again, like this podcast, it's very humbling and also a very good experience to share your knowledge to the rest of the community and actually learn from everyone. It's that whole synergy. Yes, pretty much. Passion and community makes you really actually helps you with the career as well, diba?
Tama.
But honestly, for me, when I first became an MVP, initially I was really striving for it. I really wanted to be an MVP. But when I started, just focusing on contributing to the community, and I didn't think about, becoming an MVP anymore. And then talaga, exactly that time pa talaga naging MVP. So you just need to focus on, helping out others. You don't really just focus on becoming an MVP just because you wanted to be an MVP. You really need to do something about it. I mean, to help out people talaga. It's kind of like, what you really need to do. You don't just focus on getting an award. You just really need to help out people, Yeah, anyway, apart from that, I also just wanted to know pala, Jonah. So, how did you get started with cloud? So, was it something that you really wanted to work with or work on before, or is it something that just all of a sudden kinailangan mo gawing sa work, and then na-introduce na sa'yo, or what was the story?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, to first I need to go back sa history actually. So, sa Pilipinas, I graduated ComSci, Computer Science. Tapos, that was a long time ago kasi yung first programming language ko is Visual Basic. Tapos, Tube Computers pa, 3.5 floppy disk. Parang matanda na ako. No, not really. So, to make the long story short, in the Philippines, I graduated ComSci, pero I ended up, because again, breadwinner ako, namatay yung mama ko ng breast cancer at panganay. So, I was forced to work sa call center. And I didn't work as a programmer. Pero when I moved to Sweden 10 years ago, I wanted to work as a programmer and continue my career. So I studied more programming 3 years dito sa Sweden, .NET at saka Java. And when I started working as a software developer or as an IT consultant, I had the requirement not just to code in C# or in .NET. Meron din akong requirements, for example, sa previous employer ko, meron requirement na I had to migrate an old .NET application, not 15 years old, ASP.4 that time, to migrate it to any cloud platform. And since I'm Microsoft stack, diba? So the option that I had was like Microsoft Azure. So that's how it started. I started learning about Azure like 5-6 years ago. I was in different courses, my company sent me, and then I had that migration project sa cloud. So yun yung background ko. Until then, I'm very passionate about continuous learning with Azure and sharing about it. So yun yung story, long or short version.
Yeah, that was
Actually,
a good
very
story.
common story. Even for most people, like me, like it's always like a .NET project that requires a migration to cloud or any other system that time. And yes, so Azure is the usual candidate, either IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS.
Tama.
All right.
Yes.
So, but for this specific podcast now, we wanna talk about serverless. Now, it could be not just for Azure, but serverless in general. So Jonah, I mean, what do you think of serverless? As in, wala ba talagang server when you say serverless, or what do you think about it?
I think serverless is a word that is a cliche, a cliche word, like a hype word that's pretty popular sa marketing and digitalization these days. Like, it's serverless. We need to try it. Pero serverless is actually it's a type of computing or a method in which you use the cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft Azure, GCP, or Google Cloud are providing back-end services for us, IT organizations or developers, and they provide it as a back-end services where you can pay by consumption or pay per use model. So that's serverless, and it's not really serverless because there are actually servers behind it. It's just that the vendors are providing it or taking care of us. So for example, yung storage, your servers, we don't have to worry about that. So that's the serverless. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an illusion, diba, na sinasabi nila na serverless. Yes, serverless. Kasi I feel like most developers or most IT professionals don't really want to deal with servers anymore or that much anymore. Kasi usually, medyo mabigat din. Parang most of the time magpo-focus ka sa pag-manage ng servers. And most of the time, mahal siya, diba? So, when they say that it's serverless, it's like they're giving you an illusion na you don't really have to deal with servers anymore. But you still have, of course, meron pa ring server talaga. It's just that, for you, what you see is now you're not dealing with servers anymore, diba? So, yeah, I think you're right about it. So, ayun. I think the follow-up question would be, when it comes to serverless ba talaga, when is the time na dapat mo siyang gamitin, or when is it practical to use it?
I think it is practical. There are a lot of advantages or practicalities in using serverless. So, I mean, you cannot just use serverless in everything. Of course, just like in any development, you have to choose the right platform, right programming languages, depending on the business requirement. But as for the advantages of serverless, it's useful. For example, if you have if you want to create backend service or function as a service that requires talking to third-party services like APIs and other SaaS vendors. Another thing is yung advantage. For example, there are different serverless. For example, as an introduction sa cloud providers, Amazon, meron silang AWS Lambada, and there's also Google Cloud Functions. For Microsoft, merong Azure Functions. And with Azure Functions, for example, there's an extension of it called Durable Functions that allows users to run stateful workflows, which means na pwede kang mag-run ng parallel tasks or functions at the same time and without losing the state of it. And meron ding advantages, for example, na you pay only for what you use, developer productivity, tapos you can integrate it with other Azure services like cognitive services and a lot of things. So meron siyang practical uses then, but not in all scenarios.
Yes, I agree. No, I mean, with all technologies, again, choosing the right tool for the right job, di ba? Siguro parang isa din sa I want to talk about with serverless is it purely just on compute or meron din bang application ng serverless beyond compute? Let's say storage or serverless sa networking.
Events.
Actually, I think meron. For example, Azure Functions. I mean, since my stock is mostly Azure. So Azure Functions, I know that, for Azure stock or Azure Serverless, pwede mong, you can make serverless containers through Kubernetes using Kada. It's another platform that you can integrate for your containers. And you can also integrate your Azure Functions with your web apps, web applications. So it depends on how you design your architecture sa system. So it's possible. And what's your point of view of that? Let's talk.
All right.
What's your experience about serverless? For both of you at your work. Now I'm interviewing. I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm gonna tell you right now. Yung experience ko sa serverless, it's not really that much. Kasi I started using serverless, I think a year and a half ago, and it's not that much. Kasi when I started, I really couldn't use it on any of my projects initially. Nung nilabas si serverless, hindi ko alam kung saan ko siya pwedeng i-implement kasi my projects are not really or I don't think it's gonna fit on my project. So when I had the chance to try it out, nag-all out ako basically. So nagsimula ako with serverless functions and I did implement that on Solve or some of the things na nag-fit talaga siya. So again, yung mention mo kanina na yung kung saan siya dapat. And then we moved on to the serverless database. So this is something that saved us a lot of money. Kasi our servers or our databases, we pay a lot for them and we're not using them, or I don't think we're utilizing them properly. Kasi in our example, we needed a lot of or a big database that can handle so much process in a day. Or within a week, we only use it like twice a week, something like that. So it seems like on other days hindi namin siya ginagamit. So it seems like nag-over provision kami. So ang daming times sa idle yung server namin, and it's being accessed less. And the other times naman na pag sobrang peak hours naman siya, it seems like we're under provisioned naman kasi instead of sobrang dami naman ng traffic instead na di ba? So basically we kind of had an issue with that. So instead na nag-focus kami sa provisioned servers or provisioned database, doon kami nag-switch sa serverless database na. So now we were able to instead of focusing on managing the servers and you know we now just focus on trying to implement, or rather working on our application. So anyway, we saved a lot of money. Though ang problem nga lang is unpredictable kasi hindi mo alam kung magkano nang gagastusin mo. Hindi natin alam, biglang sobrang dami palang gagamit. Pero ayun, I think I've mentioned enough information on what I've done. So we mainly focus on serverless databases and functions on my projects.
Yes, that's
How
a
about you,
really
Michael?
interesting project. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of serverless, probably in the past 2 years alone, um, and yung concept ng serverless and yung concept ng cloud native, that whole plethora of terms, that it's having a very thin line on what really differentiates them, diba? Like for example, I mean, Brian mentioned about serverless database, but then yung idea ng a managed database existed way probably a decade ago already, diba? It's just you don't really manage the server aspect of hosting the database. So for example, now with Kubernetes and AKS and that whole plethora of tools, very similar concept, no. The whole idea is you abstract everything, you automate as much as you can, you deal with less RDPs, SSH, and yung buong concept ng maintenance ng system, servers, and infrastructure. I think that's really, in my opinion, the whole point of serverless. Whether it's a simple, a function and a CDN, pwede na yun, diba? That's serverless on its own. But then, you can also have a very complicated CI/CD pipeline running on Azure pipelines, GitHub Actions, AKS. Yeah, you mentioned about, KIDA. Same with Helm and that whole plethora. May mga other integrations, even with logic apps and the whole, ecosystem. That could be serverless as well. No? So I think in my definition, really, serverless is about more focusing on the application aspect rather than on the maintenance of the server.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That really great stories and scenarios you have. That's one of the reasons I love learning more about serverless, because we were talking about serverless, but to be honest, there are a lot of things to learn about how to develop things with serverless. Yung stack ko is just C# or .NET, but I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities then when it comes to serverless. Yung passionate ko talaga is yung stateful workflows, durable functions. Na it's there are different patterns of durable functions, like function chaining, fan in, fan out, and then yung waiting for human interaction, and that is like long running. Like you can even create long running workflows na internal na forever. Pero at the same time, we have challenges as well. We're going to talk about challenges. Yung challenges then is that you cannot create Azure functions or serverless functions na long running, and then you don't know how it is configured well, kasi when it's long running, that means it's long running bill as well. Parang bottomless iced tea, diba? Or bottomless rice sa when you eat chicken sa Pilipinas. I remember, I forgot the Mang Inasal. Is that the name? It's the chicken. Yeah, they have bottomless iced tea and bottomless, like unlimited rice, not bottomless rice.
Nag-crave na tuloy ako ngayon. Mapapa-order ako ngayon dito.
I miss Mang Inasal and lechon. Not here in Sweden.
Yep. Yeah. Since you mentioned itong durable functions, kasi honestly, I would really love to try that out. I've studied that before kasi kinailangan ko mag-take ng exam. It was included on the exam. So, yeah, I'm really intrigued by it, and definitely I will try this out in the future. Anyway, my question would be, my next question would be, kasi na-mention mo na rin kanina yung AWS Lambda, yung cloud functions ni Google, and of course the Azure functions. Have you tried these out before, or meron ka bang any comments or for any of them?
Uh, Actually, to be honest, hindi ko pa na-try si Amazon and Google Cloud. Mostly, I tried Azure Functions, Microsoft Stack. So that's it. Yeah. So, but I'm actually interested once I get get familiar with Azure Functions and more about serverless technology. I want to dig deeper in my learning sa multi-cloud, 'di ba? Trend na ngayon yung multi-cloud like hybrid.
Right.
So that's it would be good to to learn what differs because 'di ba dapat tayo hindi maging biased din 'di ba when
Yeah,
choosing
of
what
course.
cloud vendors. You need to know, for example, we need to know, for example, depende sa business requirement, we need to know what differentiate Azure Functions from Amazon's and Google
Right.
Cloud. So you can compare prices para if the goal is to save money, if it's cheaper on the other side, why would you choose something more expensive, 'di ba?
And
Mm.
usually, no, yung comment ka about Jan, about different offerings. It's usually the term cloud gardening. No, like for example, you have an ecosystem of AWS that it just kind of makes sense to synergize with that set of tools, diba? Same with Azure. Like you already started with virtual machines, so yung progression is easier to deal with functions or with web apps. So same with Google na, like they are really the good pioneers of the AI and yung data aspect ng cloud. So if you have some integration points around it, so yung Google GCP functions would really fit well, and especially kung you came up with the Firebase background as well. So
Mm.
yeah, again, same thing, di ba? Parang most of them they're very similar. They're the difference is usually ano ba yung mga sinusupport nilang platforms, frameworks, languages, and yung um, when I said that includes Persian as well, then pati na din yung regions kung saan sila available. So yeah, usually yun lang naman. But then the concept is very, very similar.
Right. But I feel like Michael have already tried all three. Eh. Pero I think
Uh,
actually tayo ng dalawa, Jonah, we're the same. So I haven't really tried anything else except
Yeah.
Azure Function. So yeah, I'm on my way
Oh,
on checking those other two out. So but
yeah.
I've read on some blogs na superior daw si AWS dito eh. Pero I'm not really sure. I would like to try it out on my own.
yeah.
Mm?
Siguro again,
Yes.
but with
It's
AWS, usual with the services, they're kind of like the first mover of first move advantage sa mga service offerings. I mean, usually yun yung superiority aspect of it. And again, same thing with the probably a very common problem with serverless, like sinasabi lang hot yung cold start, yung stuff about that. Are you familiar with cold start, Jonah?
Yeah, I heard about it. The cold start. One of the challenges as well. I haven't really uh, like experienced that so much, but I noticed some challenges sometimes. I had a small project where I used Azure Durable Functions, Azure Service Bus, and just trying out the function chaining in different services. And I was working locally, so I noticed na parang there's a challenge with working locally sometimes. Then when it comes to that. So there are a lot of challenges that serverless is a great technology, but at the same time, it is a new technology, a modern technology na many are still having challenges, especially us developers na developing it in our in our environment.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Actually, like yung na-mention ni John na nga na yung challenges natin dito, even though sobrang daming na reasons or rather pros ng paggamit natin ng functions or ng serverless, I really enjoy all of them. But of course, there is still some stuff na kailangan mong isipin no. So, it again, first of all, it's really unpredictable to know how much you're gonna spend, 'di ba? Hindi mo alam kung baka pagkita mo na lang ng monthly bill mo na ito na, nako, ang dami mong users, which is a good thing. But the bad thing is, how would you pay for it, 'di ba? But it's a lot cheaper naman din, 'di ba?
And another thing, no, about challenges. Again, about that whole walled garden idea, di ba, no? So when I started Azure Function, like literally the beta version of Azure Function, it doesn't support dependency injection. So right from the beginning, so yun yung mga like things that you also kind of like mga nitty-gritty details na you have to understand what does it support rather than you have an existing paradigm or existing type of approach na hahanapan mo na lang ng server to host, di ba? So that's probably one of the challenges as well.
Right. But also, just to add up, dun sa cold start mo. I mean, going back to that, I really had this problem on my project then with regards to cold start. Kasi we wanted to kind of like make sure that we execute, or we rather, how do I say this? We are using this Azure function to send notifications on certain times. So we want to send the notification at the exact moment. So the problem is that how do we do that with cold start, diba? So we really can't do that. So ang kinailangan namin gawin is gumawa kami ng workaround na lang na ine-execute namin yung how do I say this? In-execute namin yung function every like may timer kami na trigger. So para hindi siya hindi siya magkakaroon ng cold start. So always hot siya. So ayun, that's kind of our solution, but of course that's not an ideal one. Pero yeah, that's how we remedied it for now. So yep. Yeah.
All right. I mean, Jonah, siguro parang like especially right now, where do you kind of see serverless going forward? Like what do you think would be the future of it in a way? How do you like probably 5 years from now, is serverless gonna be the new norm, or any perspective about it?
I think my personal perspective, based on my experience for now as of date, is that merong feature ang serverless computing, especially with edge computing, and everything that we do, like edge computing and even IoT, machine learning, AI, kasi the possibility of integrating it with SaaS services, APIs, and also integrating it within Azure and outside Azure. And also I see that future of serverless will be like better and best for all of us in our society, especially if we tackle or face or solve the challenges that we talked about, the cold start, for example, yung losing out of control sa bills natin because of maybe not knowing what to do with the architecture and configuration. Tapos meron ding challenge that I wanted to add up on the previous discussion that we have, is about the challenges of security sa serverless, diba? So, because of the feature or the technology of integrating it with different SaaS services or API, diba? There's a risk of security problems done. So it's also a challenge that I think Microsoft is trying to solve as well. So I have a contact in Microsoft. He works at in the security department in Microsoft, and he's also like doing open source, open threat research. It's in Twitter as well. And they're currently finding ways how to simulate attack and defense in Azure by finding solution to stop any attacking through a URL or an HTTP request or through Azure AD. So it's interesting. So I see the feature that the security and opportunities will be in the future. As long as tayo mga developers continue lang na develop, diba? At hindi ma-discourage.
And I think, parang yung nakikita ko natural progression is more and more abstraction will happen, and or button, configurations rather than really, doing the nitty-gritty details. I think that's really, the
Mm,
future of serverless. More focus on the business application or more focus on the business code.
tama. Tama. And also focus security. Di ba sa security, I mentioned security challenges. So there's a service sa Azure, merong Azure Key Vault. So making use of the security services is also good to protect your serverless applications. I'm not sure. Ano ba merong bang similar na service sa Amazon, like Key Vault? Do you know, Michael?
Yes. Actually, maraming um, maraming approach for that one. But then
Mm,
very usual, for example, kay AWS na it's either instead of having Key Vault, you have a concept of a managed identity. So it's either that one or they also have a key management service, which is again very
mm,
similar to Key Vault.
similar, yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So
good.
that's my like future of serverless input. So it's really interesting. It's really exciting to talk about innovation at saka digitalization. I like tech, and it's
Yeah.
interesting and very exciting to talk it with fellow developers and tech people, MVPs with you. So this is great. Parang nakaka-excited.
And
You
we're
can feel the
actually
energy.
and we're really
Yes.
happy din na to know that there's someone na Pinay dyan sa sa foreign countries like yan sa Sweden na
Mm,
nag-excel sa tech, 'di ba? So
mm.
we're really proud of you, really happy. Anyway,
Thank you.
yeah, I guess, to wrap this up na lang then, we just really
Mhm.
want to get, well, at least for now, let's start off with Michael. You have any takeaways for this one?
Um, Actually, take biggest takeaway as usual is serverless is just an approach or really a tool that you can use that you can or cannot use on depending again on specific purpose, no. So probably na mark lang siya for marketing purposes with serverless, but yeah, again, it's not a bulletproof solution for everything. That's why we have architects like us to actually decide or kind of like plan ahead and to determine kung anong right approach or right solution for a specific problem. So that's my main takeaway. How about you, Bri?
Well, it's nice to hear na yung regarding sa pros and cons ng serverless architecture, and obviously it's not the only, or Azure functions or functions as a service is not the only serverless offerings out there na offered nitong mga cloud vendors na to. It's nice to know that there's really a competition. I've yet to check all them out because I've barely scratched the surface. There are lots more out there sa serverless world. So yeah, I'm really glad that there are lots of things that I'll be able to study still. And yeah, it's great to have someone else or some people to talk about this because personally, in my team, I don't think a lot of them have been using serverless long enough. So it's great to hear from you guys. How about you, Jonah?
Yung sa akin naman, on top of what the key takeaways that you mentioned that I also second the motion and agree is yung identifying yung what we went through, identifying the challenges that we have in serverless, yung security, yung loss of control, pricing. So yung I that's my key takeaway, the challenges, and I look forward how we can solve these challenges to have better serverless in helping us not just in technology but also in practical scenarios in our businesses, society natin. So that's my key takeaway: the challenges to be fixed for the future. Yeah.
All right. So, Jonah, obviously, we can still talk for the next 2 hours or so. But then obviously we have to really wrap this up. So how can people contact you, or where can we learn more, from what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can contact me. I have a website, www.jonah.anderson.tech, but you can also connect with me sa LinkedIn, yung name ko, Jonah Anderson. Tapos sa Twitter, I'm CJ Codere. And that's it. That's how you can reach to me. And I also have a user group, Azure user group Sundsvall in Meetup, that is currently open to everyone, even though it's in Sweden. So feel free to connect and learn with me. So collaborate. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, Jonah. So that's it for our episode for today. No. Thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see you on our next episode.
All right.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Jonah. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.